Hello, my name is Andy, and I'm a minister of Trinity of Christ Ministries. And today we'd like to be doing a discussion about family church or church in the home. And we had some technical difficulties, and so we lost the video of the two ministers who were discussing it. One was me, and one was Pastor Mike Harrison. But we're going to run it anyways, and we're going to give you some images that you can watch and stuff while you're listening to us discuss it. So, I hope you enjoy the podcast and uh, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Oh, and if you like it, please hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more, and share it if you find it's worth sharing. Thank you.
Ministries, and today myself and Minister Gage will be talking about the house church and how it is important for the family unit. Um, Andrew, why don't you start us off with your thoughts on the house church and give us some insight?
Well, in today's society, it's becoming more and more a thing. Uh, because, the fear of persecution is starting to be paid attention to in this country, uh, some people want to establish a place where they can have their faith that's not so public. And I think that we really need to have a home church to bring the faith back into the house because, as we'll talk about in a few minutes, uh, historically, that's where the church began, in the house. And if your kids don't see you practice your faith in the home, why would they want to believe themselves? Uh, it's got to be something personal. It's got to be something a part of your life. And if they don't see that, they won't give it value. So it's really important to establish these home churches because even if you go to a mainline church, because you're bringing the faith much closer, and you'll get the advantage of a more personal relationship with God. Because instead of like going into a church and getting in a line and receiving the Eucharist and you being in this big establishment where you're kind of a number, you could be close enough to God and close enough to each other that you're actually living the faith. Do you have any thoughts on that, there, Pastor?
Um, yeah, I think that the house church offers a lot more, a lot more opportunity for people to congregate. The Lord said, "Where two or three of my people, I am there." So I think it would be in most people's best interest if they would start a house church. But the problem we run into is most people kind of see it as a competition, like they're competing with their own church or something like that. And you know, and that's something you run into a lot of is they like kind of feel guilty if they do their own thing. And as we try to tell everybody, if you're not cheating on your church, you can do both. There's no such thing as too much worship. So but I guess the first thing I should talk about is kind of the history of the early church. As we as in our time, we have no concept of what it was like 2,000 years ago during Jesus's time and right after his time. Today we see a church and we think of a big old building and cathedral, or little country church out somewhere in the boonies. So we but the church is the people. It's not a building, it's the people. And the early Christians didn't have a established building to hold worship services and things like that. And that really didn't come along until the early 300s, with when Constantine and everything, and had all these churches built, and that's when we kind of got the modern church that we have today. But before that, people met in their living rooms, and some of them met out in the backyard at a campfire, and just wherever was convenient for everyone to have, to meet together and congregate. And so that concept, of course, is lost on us as time progressed, and we got all these huge buildings and all the fancy stuff. So, uh, but people need to remember where the church started, and it wasn't in a huge fancy cathedral or a country church out nowhere. It was in people's homes, and so people need to remember, you know, as followers of Christ, that this is where our roots are. This is where we come from. And so when you hear the term house church, it's not as foreign of a concept as most people think it is. It's where we all started. So, you know, if you start a house church, I guess you could say we're going back to our roots, because that's really what we're doing. And I think it's a great idea. Uh, our history is full of house church. It's how we got here, where we came from, and I would love to see it come back, because I think it would be so good for the family units
Oh yeah.
to have their house church there. And if you'd like to talk about actually that question, I just leads into why we wish to return to the house church and the benefits.
Yep. Yeah. There's probably going to be some barriers that you might be afraid to cross because of what we've been taught for so many years. Uh, you know, the early church, there was no formation, there was no established way of doing things. Uh, they had the scripture, and they had the meeting together, and they had the sharing of the body and the blood of Christ, but they didn't have like people lining up to receive a wafer, and receive a wine or whatever. It was part of their meal. It was part of their interaction with each other. But when the church grew up, you couldn't have 100 people uh, sharing a meal like 12 people can sit around a table. And so it made it impersonal in a sense. And in order to maintain control, the priests would say, you have to have this. It has to be blessed, and it has to be, done in a certain way. And so when we try to do it at home and do a home church type of thing, you might be afraid that God might not bless that. But no, that's not true, because He blessed it in the early church. People would celebrate together, and they would pray to God, and they would ask God to bless the items that they're consuming. And so they trusted that God would do so. And of course, God is trustworthy in anything that He does. He promises us that He will bless us in the act of prayer, and in the act of reading the Bible, and in the acts of participating in His body and blood. And so, you might be afraid and say, well, gee, don't we have to go to an official church to do this thing? No. You can
Right.
ask and God to bless whatever you're doing. because each one of us, we're all disciples. And as disciples, we are all ministers in the line of Melchizedek. And so, if that wasn't the case, then the early church wouldn't be able to function and wouldn't have succeeded because, they didn't meet the particular requirement that people put on it at the time. God doesn't have those requirements. He keeps his promises to us, and some of those promises is that he blesses what we ask for because we're his children. And so, don't be afraid because you're doing something outside of tradition. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. Uh, it's not wrong. It's uh, not invalidated because it's not done in a traditional way. As long as your intent is to love God, to honor God, and to ask for God to bless things for you, He will. It's as simple as that. And it doesn't matter if you're 1 mile away, or 1,000 miles away, or if you're watching a recorded service, or if it's a live service. It's the act of your participation that makes it real. And being in a home setting, you can make it so much more personal. Say you receive and hand out the bread and juice or wine or whatever you use to others, your children and your wife and your husband. You can actually take the time to bless them, pray over them. And, that is very powerful.
Yep.
Any
Yeah.
other thoughts here, Pastor?
Yeah. I, yeah, I absolutely agree with everything you just said. One thing we need to remember is, you know, the smaller the group, the 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 more blessings and camaraderie between people, is a lot easier. You see these mega churches it's got thousands of people, and probably half of them have never even met the pastor of the church. I mean, yeah, he's like a rock star in the church, and uh, I've never liked that feeling about big congregations. My personal church, yeah, it may sound kind of strange because we have Trinity of Christ Ministries, but I practice what I preach. I also have a physical church that I attend, and we have 23 people. So we're a very small church. And it's one of the reasons I picked that church is because I like a small congregation. I think it's kind of like teachers are able to give children more attention and help when they have a small class. It's much easier to teach 10 students than 30 students. So church kind of works the same way. If you have a smaller congregation, it gives you a lot more chance to ask questions, get a one-on-one with the pastor and the ministers, or even the Bible study leader, and get good you get good stewardship between everybody. And I think it feels more like a family. To me, it feels more like a family when when I when I have a congregation of 10, 20 people. I just feel a closer connection than I do if there's 100 or 200 or 500 people in there, because no matter how much we try, and as I get older, my memory's getting worse, and I can't remember half of them's name. so, I have enough problem remembering 10 people's name, much less 100 people. And so I don't want to say hey you all the time. I'd like to get to know everybody's name. So I just think it's a much better setting. And you know again, I want to pound on the point of we are not in competition with your own church. That's not a thing. If you're thinking about that way, you're thinking wrong. You need to expand your mind, because it's just like when you come to Trinity of Christ. we don't ask you to leave your denomination or your church or whatever it is, uh, we just ask you to come and worship with us if you'd like to explore some of the services we offer and things like that, whether it's counseling, Bible study, sermon, prayer meetings, whatever it is you need, because Trinity of Christ is not in competition with anybody else. We don't look at things that way. Uh, we're all here to serve God. We're all here to serve Christ. And if you want to serve Christ with us, you're more than welcome to serve Christ with us. And you can still serve Christ in your own church. It's not a competition. You're not cheating on anybody. You know, so that's important for I think for people to realize.
Oh, yes. You know, that kind of leads us into the next question of why we wish to return to home church faith. And, in the big church, where you have 100 people plus, it it is impersonal in terms of, you know, the pastor can't get to know every one of you because it's just too many people. And what has happened, and I'm from the Catholic background, and in my background, it was considered everything was put on the pastor, everything was put on the deacon, everything was put on the official church, which what ends up happening is people don't learn to act as a Christian because you're putting all the responsibility when someone's sick. Well, the priest has got to go see him, or if you have someone who's in need or whatnot, there's always somebody else. They expect the priest to do it, and they expect the deacon to do it. And really, we are supposed to be disciples. We're all supposed to be priests under the line of Melchizedek. And so we should be comfortable and able to do these things to help each other without having to go through official channels. If you see someone in need, just go and help them. You see someone who needs to hear the word of God, just go and spend some time with them. And it makes your faith real.
Yeah.
And especially in the family, if you don't talk about your faith in your family, you don't talk with your children about it, you don't ask for blessings during your family meal, you don't pray in the morning when you get up or pray in the evening when you go to bed, those things matter. And it has meaning, not only to you, but to your family. And it bonds the family. And so that's
Absolutely.
why, as Pastor Mike pointed out, we're not here to replace the mainline church. We're here to augment it, to bring that back. And some people may be afraid, that they're too far away from God to be able to do it well. And that's part of what we do. We provide a online weekly service that you can get the full service at your discretion, 24/7. Whenever you can gather the family together. Bible study, you can join our Bible study and hear some good teaching from people who've done the studying. Uh, and you can talk amongst yourselves and share your own thoughts with each other.
Yep.
Prayer meeting. We have a prayer meeting online, and you can pray along with us and establish a good prayer um, habit. And so, all these things your children are going to see. And all these things you're going to leave them an impression of how important faith really is. Um, any other thoughts there, Pastor?
The one part is really important because uh you know it's the kids will always replicate things that they see in their childhood and things that they are taught. So uh we you know we see this in counseling because we if children grow up in an abusive home, they're much more likely to be in an abusive situation. When they get older, we've got all kind of statistics to tell us that, uh, and then on top of that, I think it's, like going back to the pastor situations, you have a lot of these churches to where the pastor is expected just to do everything. And this is why you have burnout. Most pastors don't last more than 10 years in their profession because they get burnt out doing this. So it becomes a big question mark, for a lot of pastors. So that's kind of where we stand with everything, uh, of getting people to recognize that it's not just up to clergy to do all the work when it comes to helping other people. You don't have to be a priest to go by somebody's house and pray over them. If they're sick, you can do that. We're all disciples of Christ, so that's what we have to keep in mind. So
Yeah. Yeah, the children and the parents' ability to curse or bless. Do you understand, you parents out there, that if you do not teach the word of the Lord to your children, that it's a curse? You don't even have to do something to curse your children. It's you cannot do something. And if you don't teach your children a firm base of faith, you're letting the world do it. And the world will destroy them without question. And so, you know, you need to give them some sort of foundation. And, like I said, if you don't have the ability yourself because you never had the time to explore it, maybe now's the time. And use us to help you to accomplish this goal. Because, we see it today everywhere. Nobody knows who they are, what they want to be, what they are expected of. And it's just this chaotic mess. And, the people who grew up like that, and there are many of you out there who are parents now that did, it's like you have nothing that you can depend on, nothing you can uh, uh, look at for a solid base of life. So, uh, choose to bless your children, not only by praying over them, but by teaching them the basics. They can always reject it if they want on their own. That's on them. But if you don't teach it, you don't offer them the opportunity, it's like a curse. You're cursing them down to destruction.
yeah, I agree. Uh, it definitely starts in the home of with teachings because I say if you don't teach your children, the world will. So, do, do you want them to know it from you or know it from everybody else? So, uh, going into the help to start your own house church, uh, we offer many resources for that. We also use Christian Leaders Institute for training and things of that nature. Um, and it's all free, so it doesn't cost you a penny. Um, and so they're a great organization. They are accredited. So I see a lot of these places online where you can get a certificate for this or a certificate for that, but it's a 2 hour course. You don't really get a lot out of it. If you go to CLI, you'll get in some pretty deep learning. Um, and our other affiliate that we actually have also linked on our website is Awakening. I've talked to the people there personally. They're very nice people. And if you go into Awakening, you have to realize that they do they're a theological, course. They offer theological courses. Again, they're absolutely free. But you need to understand they go very, very deep. So, you know, you're really, when they dive in the Bible, they dive in there. So you're going to get a lot of a lot of different viewpoints on that because they do theological training. Um, and it's great. Some people are not interested in diving that deep and expanding their knowledge. But, we live in a society where most of us are intellectually lazy. We want to show up at church on Sunday and, preacher man gives us what we need. And when we go home, we don't have to worry about ourselves. And, we're all guilty of that to a point. Um, but using these resources, a lot of people think that, oh, there's no way I could lead a house church. I don't, I it could barely name three verses out of the Bible, and we're not expected to be perfect. I mean, it's not what we're looking for. You're not teaching theological classes at a university somewhere. Uh, this is, this is in your home, and this can be a great thing. I don't think people realize of how not only Christ centered, but how fun it can be. I mean, it can be really fun. People bring dishes over and you break bread together, eat, have Bible study. Bring the kids if you got kids. Bring the kids. Maybe they set up a game of horseshoes in the yard or whatever. I mean, you can make a big event out of this if you'd like to. And it doesn't have to be on Sunday. Go to your church on Sunday. Do it Saturday. Do it Wednesday. Do it whenever it's convenient for the people who want to go. You don't need 100 people to attend. If there's two of you interested, then start it and start inviting more people and get more people to come and most people are pretty apprehensive about the first time they come, but if you're doing it right, usually once they come one time, they pretty much want to still come because you make it fun and it doesn't you don't have to treat it like a like necessarily a Sunday service. Of course, you want to be respectful, but uh, you can make it fun for everybody, and everybody brings a little something. So the burden is not just placed on one person to provide everything. And but eating together is important. We many stories of the Bible where you break bread together, and that's one of the biggest things. And I highly recommend anybody wants to have a house church that they make plans to break bread together. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Uh, you don't have to cook a Thanksgiving dinner to have break bread together at house church, but everybody bring a little dish or something like that. You have good food and talk about God and answer people's questions. So,
Yeah, no, it's absolutely right. One of the things I run into the most with people is they don't feel worthy. You say, "Oh, I don't feel worthy to serve. I don't feel worthy to do these things." But it's in stepping forward and doing it that makes you worthy, and it brings education to you as well as to the ones you're trying to help. And so, your job under what we put forth is kind of like a coordinator, just like Pastor was saying, where you gather the people together, you provide the food and the body and the drink for, celebrating the body and the blood. And you are there to like bless and to pray over each other and to help each other and to guide each other. And if you have bigger issues, then you contact us. And, we can help you with it or guide you through it. We have videos on how to do home church. And, it's not as complex as it sounds. It's like gathering people together, and you can use our capabilities. Like, we are available on YouTube, and that's available on most TV sets. Today, if you have Comcast or you have a smart TV, you can go to YouTube and do a search for TOCM weekly service or TOCM Bible study or TOCM prayer meeting. And you can have it anytime, 24 hours, 7 days a week. So can go to your main church and you can have like a little home church. I suggest you start with just having your children and doing it with your children. But there's nothing that stops you from inviting a neighbor or a friend and making it something more. But that is completely on you. What you feel comfortable doing, what you feel is right to do. And the fact of the matter is you'll feel better for it. You'll feel good that you're active and doing something in the faith. And it won't be something strange. You'll become accustomed to being active. And it'll bring blessings upon you and on your family.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of times we, need to think about, uh, lots of people have elderly neighbors, can't get around good, doesn't get out of the house very often. And lots of those people are very lonely. Getting old can be very a lonely experience because, let's face it, your kids and everybody, they grow up, they have their own families, they have careers, they, don't have time to just, check on mom and dad or grandma and grandpa all the time. So it can, it can be very lonely. So one of the things I recommend to people, if you know some elderly or disabled people, in your neighborhood, uh, maybe invite them to house church. They would probably be tickled to death to you know get invited to something like that, and especially if they're a believer, and you know it you can the nice thing about house church is it doesn't have to be a strict structure. You can structure it the way you want to structure it. Maybe do you have to have one location? No. Maybe you want to go have house church in the park next week. Maybe you want to go to Debbie's house because she is down and can't get around good. Maybe you go have it at her house or whatever. And like I said before, it can be a very fun thing, especially for people who doesn't get around much and get kind of lonely. And this brings a lot of joy to them. So that's one of the other things that is great. And people get so intimidated, oh, I can't do this. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a theologian. uh you don't have to be. You don't be intimidated by it. This is why we have classes that you can take that walks you through just the basics. Basically, when you're serving Christ, and you're teaching others, let it come from your heart. If you're a follower of Christ, the Holy Spirit will come to you and help you teach these people. So we need to get this two of the biggest things we need to get out of our mind when it comes to house church is we need to stop thinking we need to be have a university degree in theology, and we need to stop believing that we're in competition with our church or other churches because it's not true. Um, you know, there's no monopoly on God. God belongs to all of us. So we can all, utilize resources to help people come to him that have a hard time coming to him. Let's face it, we get a lot of criticism about, oh, well, you're an online ministry. Well, uh, if people can't come to God, why can't you bring God to them? That's
Exactly.
that's my philosophy. Do we say, well, no, you don't get to participate because you can't come to a physical church? Well, um, I don't. I think if we asked Jesus, I don't think he would agree with that statement. you know, so that's just kind of my thoughts on that one.
You know, 2 days ago, I have I had a live Bible study, and my sister attends the Bible study, and she lives in an adult community, and she invited one of her friends just to come in and sit with her as she enjoyed the Bible study, through her computer, and her friend loved it, and it not only builds their faith, but it also builds the friendships. And so you have to think of it not so much as uh, a chore, is something that should be a joy. It's something that builds families, it builds friends, it builds society, and it all can happen just because you said yes and decided to be part of it. So we have not only recorded Bible studies and recorded prayer meetings and recorded services, but we also have live Bible studies. And so you're all welcome anytime to attend. Of course, it's all through Zoom because it's online, but you'd be surprised how personal it can get and how you can learn so much from attending something live. Um,
Yeah, I think you're. I think it's definitely a huge benefit to people. You know we don't charge for our services. We always appreciate donations because it takes donations to do things, but we don't, have set fees on something or even care if you can't afford it, then that's fine too. But we I don't think people really understand how much support and help they can get. And I'm not just trying to toot our own horn, not just Trinity of Christ, but lots of other places that you can, get the help that you're looking for. And a lot of us are afraid to ask for help. Some people are embarrassed. Some people are having marriage problems or addiction problems or different things that they're dealing with. A rebellious teen or whatever. And this is we all go through this. I mean, sometimes you feel like you're the only one, but you're not. Uh, and so you utilize those resources to to help us, help you. And we can't help you if you don't contact somebody and, let us know. And so um, it's important that the resources are out there. It's important to know that you are good enough, whether you believe you are or not, you are. Uh, you know, I'm I'm definitely not the smartest man on the planet, and I can do it, you can do it. so so yeah, you just got to know to utilize those resources, and if you feel the calling of someone that, you know, we all feel a call. I felt the call to do what I'm doing and start this organization. And if you feel that call, then, pray about it, talk to the Holy Spirit, listen to what God tells you. And if you feel that call to serve in any capacity, you can contact us and we can point you in the right direction. Uh, you know, there are so many levels. And Andy, why don't you touch on what all we offer training for and positions for a little bit in Trinity of Christ. So if somebody's feeling the call, they can get an idea.
Well, that's quite a big picture.
Condense it down, condense.
The basically we can use help with all sorts of ministries. You know, we have like music ministry, we have uh, the ordination ministries, we have people who can go out and help people, and uh, and what we're looking for is people to contact us so that we know what they want to do. You know, you should be listening to your heart, and what is your heart telling you that you are being called to. Uh, I'll use the music ministry as an example. You can just record music in your home for holy events. You know, like for the service or for something for us to play before the service or before our Bible studies or prayer groups. You don't have to attend at a certain time in a certain place. If you record it and you send it to us, we can make use of that. You could even video record yourself if you want to. Uh, when it comes to people who want to serve the community and they feel like they have something to say, you may want to go to CLI through us. We'll show you how to get in there and make use of the free training, and we can get you ordained. And then you can add your voice to us and, let the Holy Spirit speak through you. You may be someone who just wants to help out, like as a secretary type of job, in just organizing things and keeping things in running. We need that too. We need, there's so many different areas that a person can help. And, we don't want to overload you with work, but we want you to be able to feel that you're a part of it. That you're serving God and that you're helping the world, the ministry, and the world. I mean, we've had people from South Korea, South Africa, Kenya contact us. So we need to have people who can deal with the everyday. So there's tons of ways to help, and the way to start is to send us an email to notify us that you're interested, and we have a form for that. Or you could also just look up our emails on the website and send us an email, and we will respond. Um,
And we're
but
pretty
yeah,
fast about responding.
and so yeah, so we need to. There's a lots of needs that we have, and that's just a few of them. But anything that you can do involving a church, we have to deal with. Newsletters, sending out uh, invites, prayer team. You could join our prayer team and just pray along with us on a webpage as you have the time to do it. Or you could join the prayer team and actually respond to people who are asking for prayer. I mean, there's lots of stuff that you can be doing.
Yeah, there's so much that literally, if you can think of it, you can probably do it with us.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
you can maybe you're a Christian writer who likes to write. Andy there himself has wrote a few books, and maybe you like to write some articles. We'd be happy to post them on our website. Uh, and we love new content from people who've been called, and maybe you would just like to record yourself reading the Bible and giving your thoughts on it. Well, you can do that too. Uh, you can go visit the nursing home and pray with the sick people or the elderly or whatever you need to do. You can, yeah, you can do. a lot. It just almost everything you can think of, we're pretty much open as long as it's Christ centered. You know,
Yeah.
we're pretty much open to whatever you want to do, and we don't ever want you to feel like you're, being forced to do anything. We want you to do what you feel you're called to do, because that's the right way. It's the only way to do it. Uh, you know, my first question is when somebody talks to me about it, I always ask them, "What do you feel that called to do? Have you prayed about it and maybe ask the Holy Spirit, and maybe He has spoken to you and asked you, you've asked Him and He's said, well, I think you should be a Christian songwriter or whatever. Some people are very gifted in different areas, so it's very important that you know you you learn what kind of place you want to hold in a ministry, and how you want to serve. And because if you do something that you're called to do, you're going to be much better at it than something you're not called to do. You know,
Yep.
um, anybody that's ever worked in a church will tell you that, well, I came on as an organ player, but I played the organ, but now they want me to be a drummer, and I don't want to be a drummer, so So you're always trying to find people that are in their college, because there's no pastor that's never acted as a treasurer. Of course he has. He's had to be the treasurer, the pastor, the secretary, and lots of other things. So uh, this is why you get the burnout that they always talk about, is because so much is placed on the leader of the church, because everybody else is like, oh no, I don't know how to do that. So you can serve many, many ways, and the house church is going to be. I honestly think you will not get a closer kinship with Christ or your fellow Christians than through a house church. That's some people may argue with that. That's just my personal opinion. A big church can't give you what a house church can. Because there's too many people.
Yep.
It's not that they're not good at what they do. They just, you can only divide your time between so many people. And this is why, if one thing in house churches is, once a house church grows to where it gets to 15 to 20 members, it's strongly suggested that you split into two house churches. Because now, don't get me wrong, we don't have to shun anybody because we split off. We can still congregate, but you probably want to divide into two house churches, because you want to keep that close knit connection that you can only get in a small setting. And so, that's what we need to strive for. And I would love to see more and more people requesting information about how do I start a house church. We'll hold your hand the whole way. You'll never be alone. We'll always be just a Zoom or a phone call or something, or a text message away to guide you, give you advice. Uh, I understand it can be a little overwhelming. If you've never done it before, but try to think of not just, you know, the camaraderie that you'll have with other people and fellow Christians. Uh, there's nothing wrong with looking at the fun side. It can be very fun. You can have a lot of fun doing it. You can make it very fun. Uh, and it's totally up to you of how you want to do this. And if it helps, don't think of yourself as the preacher. Think of yourself as you're a worship coordinator. How about that? That might be yeah, might be an easier title to help with, and see, it might lower the pressure level a little bit. So you're just a worship coordinator. Hey, we're going to meet here. We're going to have church here. We're going to do the book of, Romans or whatever we're doing that week. And, everybody bring a dish and sit down. Maybe somebody knows how to play the guitar or the piano, and you can have some singing, or, you know, just whatever you want to do. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, the to give paint a picture for you of what it means to be a member of Trinity of Christ Church Ministries. Um, I'm disabled. I can't stand for very long. Walk maybe 100 feet. And my part of the ministry is doing a lot of this online stuff. I do online Bible studies. I do the website. I do all the stuff that I can do from my computer. And we have a minister in Canada who he went to CLI. He got accreditation, and now he's doing a service in an adult community center. And so he has a church service that he does, but he's able to get around and do things. So that's how he serves. You could serve any way that you want. You could be a prayer minister or a Bible study. We could give you the resources to have an online Bible study that you can do from your home and just invite other people. I mean, we're online, so that means we could cover the entire world. So there's no one Bible study that's going to do it all. We need more people who are willing to run a Bible study and in their own time zone. Uh, you know, um, it doesn't have to be complex, and we invite people who are disabled, elderly, people who can't get out of the house, to use uh, our service as true service. And if they want, they can invite their friends and make a social event in their home so they don't have to leave their home. There's many ways you can serve. And we're just trying to open the door to God for everyone, wherever they are.
Exactly. Yep.
And so
Uh,
we'll assist in any way that we can to get that to happen.
yeah, that's what it's all about. That was about, the reason I started Trinity of Christ, and Andy here's been along the whole journey with me. So I pretty much consider him a co-founder. So so you know, we want we want to be a minister, of course. We want to bring people to God. But one of our main focuses is we want to bring people to, ministry, to um, go as far as they want. Some people want to go be an ordained minister. You can do that at Trinity of Christ. You can be an ordained minister for us as long as you're willing to take the classes and do the training and prove that are a worthy person. Uh, you can absolutely do it in our name for us. Uh, and some people just would like a deeper understanding of the Bible, and you can do that also. Some people would like to just be able to uh, marry their daughter to somebody one day, and you can even do that here. If you want to take the wedding officiant course and learn how to do weddings, you can. You may just be a person that just wants to run around and do weddings, and if you want to do that, then you can do that. So we offer the opportunity for everybody to do everything they want, and I know we're I know we're running a little long here. I don't want to bore everybody to death, but I'll make a closing statement. Andy, you got any last words you want to add anything before I wrap it up?
Well, yeah, the only thing I wanted to say is we're going to be doing this again. And if you want to see what we publish, you need to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. That's Trinity of Christ Ministries, with the @ sign in front. And come to our website at Trinity of Christ Ministries. Trinity of Christ .org. I always want to put ministries in there, but the website doesn't have ministries in it. It's just trinityofchrist.org. And if you like the video, please hit the like. It helps us to be seen by others. And of course, you can share it and do whatever. The more, the merrier. Pastor?
Yeah, in closing, I'd just like to say, you can find us at trinityofchrist.org, as Andy said. You can find us on YouTube, type in TOCM, uh, and search for our videos. We don't do just ministry things. I'm a relationship counselor, so you'll see some of my videos on there about infidelity and intimacy and some of these other things in the world that Christians often face and non-Christians alike. And check back, because we're going to be doing some more of these. We're going to have some more videos talking about different subjects. And so that's what I would like to say in closing. Again, please like and subscribe. We need all the help we can get. We're always looking for help, so every little bit helps. But I think that's about it to wrap it up. And I thank all you for watching. And God bless you, and we'll see you next time.
Yep, so there ends our video blog where we discuss faith and discuss how the home church is important. And that, if you really want to explore your faith, you can't just go to a minister or a priest and expect him to give you your faith. If you really want to explore your faith, you have to do it yourself. You have to do the study yourself. You have to seek yourself. You have to share it with the people around you. And that's what we're all about. And I hope that you've enjoyed this. I ask God bless you and keep you for the coming week. And keep an eye out for new videos that will come from us. Hopefully we won't have any technical difficulties in any of those. And God bless.